The golden ratio for deviled eggs is 7 grams of sauce per egg yolk at a ratio of 2 parts fat to 1 part flavoring liquids. So if you have 6 whole eggs and thus 6 egg yolks, that means you need 42 grams total sauce addition, which 2 parts or 28 grams of is fat, in this case mayonnaise, and 1 part or 14 grams of flavoring liquids like mustard or vinegar. Now there's a little bit more to it. For example, how do spices and herbs fit into that mix, or what if I like a creamier filling? And this ratio is not about creating the perfect deviled egg. Instead, this ratio is your entry ticket into the wild world of deviled eggs because there are countless ways you can use it. Also, if you're thinking to yourself, is this video just a thinly veiled attempt to rationalize eating over a dozen deviled eggs in a day and calling it work? Frankly, that's exactly what this video is, but let's break it down anyway. As Michael Ruhlman notes, here's a quick primer on why ratios are important. Ratios are about the basics of cooking. They teach us the fundamental ingredients of the kitchen and how they work and how variations in proportions create the variations in our dishes. And deviled eggs are one of those dishes that can have countless variations based on what you have laying around, but the classic deviled egg filling is cooked egg yolks that are mashed up with the fat, usually in the form of mayonnaise, then flavoring liquids or sauces like mustard, relishes, vinegar, or hot sauce are added, and lastly, what I'll call flavoring solids are added, like herbs, aromatics, or spices. And the ratio of these first 3 components, the yolks, the fats, and the liquids, has a really large effect on the signature creamy texture of the deviled egg filling, while the flavoring solids are more added to taste based on your preference. So how did I come up with that golden ratio of 7 grams per egg yolk and 2 parts fat to 1 part liquid? Well, through some pretty simple research and an experiment. I collected deviled eggs recipes from sources that I trust, in this case, Julia Child, Bon Appetit, Serious Eats, and America's Test Kitchen. And though most of these use cups and measuring spoons, I converted the ingredients to grams for 1 dozen egg yolks, and then threw everything in a notion table for the fats and the liquids. Now, while all these recipes are different, in this view, they look fairly similar. The total fats and liquids had a minimum of 84 grams and a maximum of 105 grams, and most of these had about 2 parts fat with 1 part liquid, with the exception of America's Test Kitchen, which had a much higher proportion of fat. Now that I had some data collected, it was time to do some actual tests, so I boiled and deshelled a bunch of eggs, sliced them up, and then pushed 9 egg yolks through a metal strainer, which makes a really even texture. Additionally, I made a sauce with 2 parts mayonnaise and 1 part mustard with vinegar, adjusting that a bit to taste with salt and some pepper. I then separated out the egg yolks into 3 evenly weighed batches, and then added 5 grams per egg yolk, or 15 grams total in one batch, 7 grams per yolk in another, and 9 grams per yolk in the last one. Then after mixing them up, I tossed them into bags and pipetted them out into our egg shells, and here they are. So clearly the 5 and 7 gram egg yolk filling is a bit stiffer, and the filling actually holds its shape over time, which is a nice aesthetic touch. And obviously the lower amount of sauce, the more egg forward the filling is. Whether that's good or not, I'll let you decide. The 9 gram per yolk filling definitely has a much creamier texture with the increased fat, but it doesn't hold its shape as well. And then obviously you get more of the mustard and vinegar taste to come through, or whatever liquids you ended up adding. Personally, I really enjoy the texture of the 5 gram per egg yolk, but I think 7 grams is the sweet spot for the golden ratio because it gives you a greater margin for success depending on the ingredients that you are adding. You know, it could be vinegars, which are much more liquidy compared to those mustards, which are a little bit more viscous. And speaking of, let's get a little weird with it. Here are a couple of deviled eggs creations using that golden ratio of 7 grams. First up, I made an avocado and lime one where I used smashed avocado and mayo as the fat, and then I used salsa verde as the liquid in addition to a zest of lime and then a sliced serrano over the top. Also, I got lazy and didn't pipette any of these. Second was a Julia Child inspired one with mayo and butter as the fat, with sweet relish as our liquid, in addition to some black pepper and salt, and I finished that over the top with a pimiento pepper. And last, a kind of Asian flavor inspired one with mayo and a bit of sesame oil as the fat. Then I added rice wine vinegar and soy sauce as the liquid along with some chives in that mix before sprinkling some red chili flake over the top. This one was actually very, very tasty. So in conclusion, while recipes are still very helpful, I love ratios like this because they help you think more about what's going on with the food and how variations can be in play. So the next time you want to make some deviled eggs on a whim, just remember 7 grams of sauce per egg yolk, of which 2 parts is fat and 1 part is those flavoring liquids, and then go make yourself a ton of deviled eggs.